let's start at the first card game. Let's talk about Magic. So how Magic worked is that you have mana, which are land cards. And to summon a creature or use a card, you had to use that much mana. The blue refers to the specific type of mana, whereas the one is you can use any type. So you would have to pay 3 mana to play this card, 1 random, and 2 blues. That's Magic. Next is, we'll go over Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I think it's more comparable. For Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's more of a stair-step system. You summon a card with a few levels, like Gazelle, King of the Mythical Beasts. This was a very famous card when I went through. You can summon a 4 or less monster. And then you could sacrifice that monster to summon a guy with like up to 8, I think. And then there's fusion monsters and special summons and stuff like that. I never understood that fully. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very convoluted personally, but I understand where they're going to with this system. And then there's Pokemon cards, where your goal is to take away 6 life cards. You have your hit points of each card, but they have a stage system, similar to Yu-Gi-Oh!, but more dependent on the specific card. So in this case, you would have to have a Charmeleon, then you could place Charizard on top of the Charmeleon, you'd be good to go. And finally, there's Hearthstone. Hearthstone is entirely mana dependent. Similar to Magic, right? Whereas Magic, you have your mana. Magic builds up, though. It can get to a point in Magic the Gathering where you are dropping crazy cards every turn because you have so much mana on the field. Hearthstone has a set limit of 10 mana, but you gain 1 every turn up until turn 10. So if you were to summon this guy, it would just be that. So we've looked at every major card game in the market right now, except for one. And that one, the reason I've left it to the end is because it's extremely different. That one is Keyforge. Now, I want to preface this by saying I've played Yu-Gi-Oh!, I've played Magic, I've played some Pokemon, I've played some Hearthstone. I have not played Keyforge yet. And I might do that on stream, actually. That might be fun. I'm going to do that right now. Yeah, that'd be good. We'll play some Keyforge. Yeah, we'll play some Keyforge. But
first,
oh my. The difference in Keyforge is that instead of using a mana system or a summon system like you see in Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh!, what instead you see is a house system. So in this house system, each deck, which is pre-built, entirely pre-built, has 3 different houses in this card game, at least per deck. And depending on what turn you get a turn, you can pick a house, but you can only play cards from the house you pick in that turn, which is incredibly different from any card game that we've seen so far. And it's a very simple system, and balancing it, I assume, is incredibly difficult, but it's so different from a Hearthstone. It is so different from a Magic that it makes me curious and it makes me want to play it. I never did like Magic, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain the downfalls of each system, and then we'll go back and summarize everything, because I am designing a card game and I want to hear what y'all have to say about all this, to hear if y'all have different opinions. But we're going to start with what I know the best of. I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's go to a card that I can actually read and y'all can see. There we go, Dark Magician card. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the thing back in school. Was the absolute thing to have. If you had a crazy card, that was a big deal. You were kind of a jerk if you had a crazy card, honestly, because no one wanted to play against you. But Oh, here's some OG cards here. But no, Yu-Gi-Oh, their art style is very distinct. Their card style is very distinct. It's very simple too, at least when it comes to the original summoning system. Things got very convoluted later on. Their attack and defense styles, very distinct. The issue with Yu-Gi-Oh is their health points, their health system, as well as their summoning system. So with their health system, you've got crazy numbers going on in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, you've got 2,800 and 2,300 attack defense values. The issue with that is that that's pretty difficult to keep track of. You know, you watch people play Yu-Gi-Oh! Over the board, and they've got a goddamn pencil and paper to the side writing down pluses and minuses and da 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 da. That's not fun. That's not. I don't find that fun. So, that's the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! You've got, the second problem actually, the summoning system. Outside of regular sacrifice summons, you're getting pretty convoluted, in my opinion. And it's gotten to the point where you've got synchro and all these crazy things, and even the mat, the playing board of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has changed since I've played. So for someone who grew up with it, it's very difficult to hop back into the game. Alright, let's talk about Pokemon cards. We'll go with the crazy Charizard. The issue I have with Pokemon... excuse me. The issue I have with Pokemon is that there's not a lot of stoppage. At least from the gameplay I've seen. And I've seen, again, some Pokemon and some Hearthstone. So I'm going to be speaking to them on a very general level. Let me know if I'm wrong, because I probably will be. But from a player with very basic experience in card games, observing these games, this is what I see. For Pokemon, it's difficult to curb momentum. If another player starts setting down his cards and then evolves those cards and then can summon, there's not a lot you can do to stop them. And I know the point is to defeat 6 different Pokemon in a 1v1 battle there. But it's more of a build, 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 fight, 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 instead of a stop the opponent, reconfigure your strategy, and do a couple other things. That's my issue with Pokemon. It's not as asymmetrical. There's not as much opportunity that you can take it. Not as much opportunity, not as much direction you can take it with the opportunity the cards give you. That's another Yu-Gi-Oh card. Alright, Magic. Magic is crazy, and I don't think it's a good entry-level card. Or entry-level card game. It updates so quickly, and it's such a deep game, and I think it's amazing that it is, but personally, I cannot get into it. I just can't. I'm also not a fan of the art style as much. That's more on me. But seriously, if you were to pick up a deck of Magic, it's more difficult to get into Magic than it is a Pokemon card game or a Yu-Gi-Oh card game. And the art style is so different. It's so different. So I think the issue with Magic, while complexity is a good thing and it gives your players a lot of different directions they can take their gameplay, hard to get into. Magic is hard to get into, hard to understand, and hard to track. Also, personally, I don't like the art style. I prefer the art style of a, let's see, where's the GX card? There we go. I prefer the art style of a modern day GX Pokemon card or a classic Yu-Gi-Oh card compared to Magic. I just think Magic tries to be this gritty thing, and to me it just becomes less recognizable You see an image like that and you think, yeah, that could be on a playing card or that could be in a Reddit post. That's just me. All right. But now we have the outlier. At least in this group of 4 major card games. We have Hearthstone. I love the art style of Hearthstone just as much as I love the art style of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. I think that's another Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. I think they have nailed their art. They have nailed the look of the card. And because they are having to look at how the art takes up space for the card once it's played on the field. You don't see this full card. You see it just the picture itself. You can hover over it to see the card. Hearthstone has nailed what it looks like to transform a actual cardboard game over the board onto the digital medium. That has a lot to do with the complexity of many of Hearthstone's systems, because they do require a computer to keep up with many of these things. And I've got to commend them for that. That's pretty awesome. You designed a game that is very well done on the computer, which is where everyone's at now, which is where the playing is at. People aren't taking cards to play anymore, or at least it's not as much. It's still there. Yeah, it's still there. I would argue that it's more rare among casual players. And I'm not a tournament player. I'm not a guy who goes to Magic tournaments or Pokemon tournaments or even tracks them. But I've been observing them. I'm very interested in I like card games. But there's something about every single one of them that I'm like, My problem with Hearthstone is that it mirrors a lot of the similarities with Magic, and that it can be very complicated. And it's updated extremely frequently, especially with the digital medium. You could have a good card, and because that card is so good, everyone's using it, that card gets updated. And then something you own that is good is changed forever, and you have no control over it. So that's why I don't like Hearthstone. Because if I invested in the game, if I spent money to get a certain card, and they changed that card to be worse than it was, they nerfed it, then what's the point of going after good cards if good cards are just going to be nerfed? That's my point on them. All right. So we've talked about Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic, and Hearthstone. Now we got to talk about Keyforge. I am going to buy a Keyforge deck tomorrow. No joke. I'm going to do it because this very, very much interests me. I want to see what the game is like. I want to know, why is everyone not playing this? Because this seems like an interesting system to me. This seems like a game that people would get competitive about, but they aren't, at least that I've seen. And I want to know why. So in Keyforge, what you can do is you get a pre-built deck. Every single deck out there is different, but you can't mix and match cards. You can't build your own deck in Keyforge. What you have to do is just use the deck you bought. On that deck is 3 different houses. No mana system, no leveling system. You pick a house and you play cards from that house through the turn. And only that house. Next turn, you can pick a different one and go from there. The issue with a card game like this, compared to every other card game, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic, Hearthstone, you lose customizability, if that's how you say it. And you lose a lot of player satisfaction in knowing that they're getting what they want. I'm going to update the stream title. There we go. You lose it. You lose a lot of what you're looking. You lose players going, man, I love the artwork of this card. Wait, let's find a... I guess that's a play card. Show me a character. Oh, yeah, that's a creature card. This looks like Santa. This is perfect for the holiday, actually. Alright. So let's say, for whatever reason, you are a massive fan of this card in Keyforge. You're like, man, this card, I love this card. This is my card. Like, I want to use this card. I don't want to play another deck because I love this card. It saved my butt in so many games. I have a personal attachment to it. It's kind of like an old Pokemon games, right? That's your guy. Bagon, Salamence, that was my guy. I couldn't go through a Pokemon game without him if I had a chance to catch him. For card games, that might be the same. This is your guy. If you build a deck, you have to build him in the deck because he's your guy. Keyforge doesn't have that, though. You go to a different deck, you can't use that card. You have to use the pre-built cards in the deck. You lose customizability, you lose player attachment. Interesting concept, though.